Okay guys, so in this one we're going to turn this into a fully functioning form so they can actually make a selection on the answers. So what we need to do is go into Komodo Edit. Let's just jump back into all, and underneath question here we're just going to do form method equals to post action. For now we're just going to have it submit locally or to the same page, and then we'll put it in here. Notice that we're putting the form within the question itself, and CRS token, CRSF token, and okay, cool. So then we want to put a radio button. So input type equals radio, and value equals to answer, or ANS in this case, and then name equals to answer. Okay, and then we'll put ANS on the outside as well. And I might as well put a break after it, as well as a break after the question, so it just looks a little bit better. Let's go back in here, do a quick little refresh on your questions. Oop. CSRF token. There we go. So now it looks a little bit more like a question. Now we actually need to handle this stuff. So in our views, we're just going to test it first. So we'll do if request method equals to post, print request.post. Okay. And that's pretty simple. So again, refresh one more time. Oh, we need an input button, submit button, excuse me. So input type equals submit, and value equals submit, submit. Okay, refresh, pick anything, and then hit submit. Nothing will happen really. So we go back in terminal, and we notice that here we go in our values, in our post data, we get our answer being read. Another way we could call that is back in our views. We can say answer, because that's the name that we gave it. So that's the name that we gave it here, answer. And do another refresh. We can submit the form again. This time it just prints red. Cool. So that's how we're going to actually get the information that we want to save for our question there. Now what we need to do is actually save that in our models for a user answer. So we'll do class user answer models.model, and we'll do question equals model. We can actually just copy this one right here, because we're going to just use that question, because we wanted to actually have the question instance, and then answer equals models dot foreign key answer, and of course we want the user as well. So notice this, some users can actually ask the question and they can also answer it. We will put a timestamp on this one for sure, and we might as well return the answer as well. Return answer dot answer, because we're taking that answer and then we're going and grabbing that for sure. Okay, so we save that, and then we need to do a schema migration. So python manage.py schema migration questions auto, and python manage.py migrate questions. Cool. So now we have that in there. We can import this into our view and go to user answer. So we also want to actually pass the question itself. So I'm going to go back into our ID here, and in the form we're going to input type equals hidden, and then we'll do value equals to the question ID, actually question.id, and name equals question ID. Okay, so that's another thing that we want to actually add in here. So print question ID. And let's just check that real quick. Let's run the server again. Go back in here. Server is running. Hit red or whatever color and see if it's working. Question ID is 1. Red is the value. Okay, cool. So we can change these to question ID equals that. Answer equals to answer. And user equals to user.objects.get, user equals request.user. Okay, and now that we have this in here, we can add that. So we're going to do a get or create, created, and answer, maybe answered, equals to user answer objects get or create, and we'll do user equals user and question equals to question. So we actually need to grab that question as well. So since we are using a foreign key, these aren't actually sufficient. So I'm actually going to change this to answer form, and then I'll add question equals to question.objects.get ID equals to question ID, and then I'll do answer equals to answer.objects.get question equals to question, and answer equals to answer form. So that's getting the question and the answer. All right. So get or create, it's going to create the question in this case, and then we will just change the answer. So answered.answer equals to answer, and then answered.save. Okay. So what's going on here? We are first selecting the question and the answer. We're grabbing that information from our post data. Then we're getting the user. And then from the questions and the answers, we have to get the ID or the actual object or the instance from the model. So that's where this is coming in. And then we have to get the same thing from the answer, but specific to that question. Because in some cases, we might have that answer come up again. So if we look in our models, that's the reason we have this as a foreign key, or one of the reasons we have it as a foreign key is so we don't confuse any of our answers with other questions at all, because they might be the same or they might have slight variations. So let's just keep it like that. And once we get that information, we're going to assign it to this user answer. So it's saving basically the user's answer. In this case, I am updating the answer every time, whether it's created or not. So if we only wanted it when it was created, we would just write if created, and then we would do that. That's it. But we don't want that, because we want it, if they change their mind or have a new answer or whatever, we want it to be like that. So that should work. Let's go back into here and do red and then hit submit. Looks like we ran into a little bit of an issue. We put user into field when it should be username. So this right here should not be user, it should be username. And we'll try that one more time, do a refresh, and answer ID may not be null. So answer ID may not be null, that's when we actually create it. So we actually want to go back in here and just change this. Because when we create it, it's okay if it's null, but we are setting the value shortly after that, because with this get or create, what we're doing here is we are getting or creating this specific instance of the user answer model, so or the object. So if we added the answer field in here, like it's asking us to do, we are basically every time we change our answer, we're going to have a new instance created, and we don't want that. We just want one. So we can actually remove that, And all we need to do then is change our models to have the database being null or blank. We will go back in here, cancel out your server, and we're going to do the schema migration one more time, and we'll do a disable backwards migration. Oops, not run server questions. Okay, and back to run server, and we'll do a refresh one more time, and now it should have saved it. The only way we can check is by adding it into the admin. So we'll go into admin and we'll do user answer. We're going to copy this and just add user in front of everything. So user, and user. Save that. And we'll go into the admin. Let's delete this stuff. Oops. Go into admin. Okay. So user answers, and we have an answer. Red. Cool. So if I go back in here and change it to blue, it should change it in here too. So if I do a refresh, changes it to blue. What you'll notice is this is the beginning of a simple survey. So if we start getting more advanced and asking a bunch more questions and making these a little bit more relevant, we can start kind of quantifying people against other people. It's not so important the question or even the answers. It's the question and the answers combined relative to somebody else. That is kind of how you make that matchmaking. And we'll use a pretty simple algorithm. It's not going to be too advanced, but it will. I've done most of the thinking through the algorithm for you, but it will at least start taking these answers and questions and matching them up. So you can use it to actually kind of make connections with people and all that. So we will start to do that after we make this question and answer thing a little bit more advanced. So we will see you in the next one.